Thank you for tuning in to Commercially Speaking. In this episode, Bo and I traveled to Nashville, Tennessee. We were invited to record our podcast live at the Middle Tennessee's CCIM Chapter's event. We're talking ChatGPT, if you're using it for the very first time, some things to know, and then how it can be applicable to commercial real estate. So this will be our first ever live in front of an audience episode, which came with some technical difficulties. So if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you're going to notice me getting out of my chair throughout this whole hour. The cameras kept turning off. These microphones had a difficult time handling my theater training and projecting your voice so that Aunt May can hear you in the back of the room. In these moments where I'm making the mic peak, I've done my best to make it bearable to listen to. Hopefully good enough that you don't even notice. But if you do, this is our first time recording live. Cut me a break. Ironic how the guy with ADHD is trying to explain to you what could be distracting and try not to be distracted. So welcome to Commercially Speaking Live.
Please welcome both Bo and Timmy.
What's up, everyone?
I've never had walk-up music before. That was fun.
Never. Welcome to Commercially Speaking. This is my brother Bo Barron, CCIM.
And this is Timmy Barron, ADHD.
This is the podcast where Bo teaches me everything about commercial real estate, and I try to stay awake. Yeah.
Am I supposed to say something else at that point, or?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you could. Probably would have been better. But it's okay. I'll fix it in post.
Okay,
Great. What are you teaching me today, Bo?
Well, I thought we would we'd do some AI ChatGPT stuff today.
Yay!
You know, and of course we do have the live audience here today, which is a first for us.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. We're glad to be here with the Middle Tennessee CCIM Chapter. Best looking audience we have ever had by far.
Yes.
And so thanks for having us down here. But what's nice about having a live audience is you guys were polled beforehand about what some of the questions that you have about ChatGPT are. And, you know, a lot of it is, I've just never used it. I don't know where to start. That was a lot of the feedback that we got from you guys. So I thought we would start with some low-hanging fruit, like just some really easy stuff as you jump into ChatGPT for the first time, or any of these other AI tools that, you know, this is the stuff you want to nail at the beginning. ChatGPT is free. Right, and there's also a paid version. Use the paid version. The difference is like getting a fifth grader to help you with some stuff versus getting like a grad student to help you do some stuff. I mean, the difference is vast. And so if you're going to use ChatGPT as a tool to be more efficient and effective, go ahead and pay. It's like $20 a month. It is nothing.
And you get access to the internet with there, so it's like going through everything you ask it. It will use the internet. It can create photos for you. That's about all I know.
All right, second thing is never, ever, ever, Holly, ever. Well, I was just looking at you, so I'm sorry. Don't ever just copy and paste what it gives you. ChatGPT, in a lot of ways, and I'll give you some ways to make it sound more like you a little later on, but in a lot of ways, ChatGPT sounds like itself. And so as you start to read things that are out there, you'll start to say, okay, that was AI generated, right? You don't want any of your stuff to ever come across as AI generated. And so the rule of thumb that I do is I use ChatGPT in a way that helps me get 80% there as quickly as possible. And then I take its output and I run it through another iteration. Like I'll take it and I'll tweak it. I'll edit it. I'll make it sound more like me to get it another 80% of the way there. And the way the math works is if you start at 0 and you get 80% of the way there, you're 80% of the way there. If you have 20% of the way left remaining, and you can get 80% of that, that's 16 more percent. You're now at 96% with 2 iterations, right? That's good enough for almost everything you ever do. 2 iterations get you to 96%. That's A, work. And you don't need to be a perfectionist here. There's almost nothing that we ever do. Like, we're not brain surgeons. We're not accountants. Maybe some of you are, but we don't need 100% in anything we do. We need excellent work as quickly as possible, and that's why I love using these tools. It gets me so much further faster, so much farther faster.
By show of hands, who has not used ChatGPT before? Okay. So when you go in there, it's essentially like you're asking questions and it will answer you. It's almost like chatting with a real person. And if you can go into the ChatGPT and talk to it like you're talking to a real person, that is what's going to get you the best results.
Yeah, no question. And that leads me to the third thing rather, is ChatGPT is all about the prompts. Okay? So it's got access to all kinds of data, all kinds of information from just about everything that's ever been written. It's all in there already. You have to tell it the right things for it to give you what you actually want from it. So it's all about the prompts. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about how to create great prompts. So just when you're dealing with, like Timmy was saying, it's what you tell it to do, what you ask it to do, that really makes the big difference. All right. And then that leads me to the fourth thing of these 4 low-hanging fruit things. That one just went off, by the way.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That is have it interview you. And the more information you give it in these prompts, the better the outputs are going to be. And the best way I've found or ever heard of to get that information out of your brain and into ChatGPT is to ask it to interview you on something. Ask one question at a time. Don't ask me the next question until I answer, and it'll interview you and get all of that information out of your head and then create for you what you want. Okay? So those are kind of the 4, like a baseline level. If you're going to start using this at for the first time, go ahead and get the paid version. All right? That's a no-brainer. Never just copy and paste what it gives you and put it in an email or make it a blog post or whatever you're going to do. It's all about the prompts, and have it interview you, okay? Really what I want to do is I want to give our audience and our listeners 3 ways that ChatGPT or AI in general can be used in a commercial real estate business.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so marketing and content creation is the first thing. And let's talk about bios. Who loves to write your own bio? That's what I thought. Nobody raised their hand. That's exactly what I thought. Nobody likes writing their own bios. Some of us don't like it because your mama told you not to brag when you were a kid. And so that's still just in the back of your mind. And so you almost downplay your bio when it's there to create buzz for you. And the best prompt, and I would write this down or, listen to this episode when it's published or whatever. The prompt is this. You're going to interview me so that you can write my Forbes profile. Ask me one question at a time. Don't ask me the next question until I've answered that question, and keep asking me questions until you have enough information to write my Forbes profile. And it will start to ask you questions, and it's just like having a conversation with somebody interviewing you. The questions that it asks make a lot of sense. They're insightful, and your answer to it informs the next question. Like when you answer, it'll always say, "Oh, that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that with me." And then it'll ask the next question. It's really like having a conversation. If you don't have it ask you one question at a time, what it will do is it'll just, brain dump 15 questions that you have to answer. And most of us, if you're like me, are gonna I'm not doing that. Like, that's too much crap. I'm not doing that. So the one question at a time helps me actually do it. And it makes it feel like an actual engaging interview with somebody else, which is weird with a computer screen. But that's kind of what it feels like. And then at the end, once it has enough information, it will just spit out your Forbes profile. And it's too long, and it's really good. Like, you'll be surprised at how good it is, but it'll be too long. And so all you have to do is say, all right, rewrite that as 800 words. Rewrite that as 400 words. You just start paring it down to the length that you want. And then you can also give it more direction. Like, if it never asks me about my military service and I want that in my profile, I just tell it, hey, I want you to also ask me about this. And it'll say, okay, and it'll ask me about that. And I type in the information and it updates my profile. If it then makes my profile way too much about my military service, I can say, look, I want you to highlight more of my professional commercial real estate experience and downplay the military aspect, and it'll just continue to iterate as you give it more direction. But you continue to tell it what you want to do, like you're the boss of it, okay? So if it's 80% good, one, you're going to iterate on it again and get it later, but just say, I want it to be shorter. I want it to be 3 paragraphs. I want it to emphasize this. If it's using too much flowery language, say, I don't like the flowery language. I want it to be much more straight to the point. It can change its style, the whole, this might be the wrong word, but I often use the wrong word, the whole timbre of the tone of the, is that?
Timbre is a good word for that. Timbre is more audible.
Yep.
But
So just continue to work with it and tell it what you want, and it'll just keep iterating on it until you have your, like Tracy read my bio. That bio that she read was created using that exact prompt, using ChatGPT, iterating on it, getting it to the length that I wanted, and that's, it was pretty good, I guess. I didn't have to write it, which was the main thing, okay? So just doing your bios, like you can level up your bios right away using this prompt. 15 minutes, you've got what you need. Another is marketing descriptions. Who loves to write marketing descriptions for new listings? I hate that crap. I mean, I hate it. And I like to write, but I don't like writing about buildings, and it's just not and look, you read other people's OMs, nobody's good at this. Almost no one is really good at doing this because none of us like it, and we just want to get it done, right? So use the same exact method, and the prompt would sound something like this. You're an expert copywriter. I'm telling ChatGPT what it is. You're an expert copywriter. You're going to help me create the marketing copy for this new industrial listing. Here's the address. Here's some information about the property itself, and I want you to interview me one question at a time about the property until you have enough information to write the marketing description and the copy for the OM. And it'll ask you a few questions. Some of the stuff you haven't even thought of, and you'll be like, crap, I got to get that information from the owner, and you'll shoot them off a quick email. And then when you're done, you've got good, maybe even really good marketing copy, and you'll start to differentiate your marketing stuff, differentiate it from your competition. And it's faster than you would do it starting from scratch on your own, and it ends up being better. Okay, so this interview method works just as well on those marketing descriptions. And here's a little fun fact about what ChatGPT can do. It can analyze your voice or your writing style, which is pretty cool. And the way that you do this is you tell it, I want you to analyze my writing style, and then you copy and paste an email that you wrote or a blog post that you wrote. Or if you want it to analyze your voice and you've been on a podcast episode or a Zoom call where there's a, what's the word? Transcription, thank you. You just copy and paste the transcription into ChatGPT, and it'll analyze your writing style or your voice. And it'll come back and say, you're clear, concise, straight to the point. You don't use flowery language. It'll name what you are. Like it'll actually analyze it. So then the next time you want to write an email, the prompt would say, I want you to use my writing style, which is, and then you copy and paste the exact analysis of your writing style that it gave you before so that it sounds like you, and say, we're going to be emailing this person. This is the topic. I want to make these 3 points. I want this to be short and to the point, and boom, it'll just spit it out for you. And then you're good to go. And it sounds a lot more like you at that point. So maybe now instead of just 80% there on that first iteration, it can get you to 85 or 90%. And then you've got something that sounds much more like you. And there's some debate over, if for those of you who haven't used ChatGPT yet, you basically have, these chat sessions with ChatGPT. And you can go back and you can click on these previous sessions. Sometimes they go away. ChatGPT seems to be a little finicky. But some people believe that once I create the analysis of my writing style in ChatGPT, and I tell it in my paid account, I say, look, this is my voice. This is my writing style. Some people think it remembers it. And so, 3 months later, you can open up a new chat box for a new thing you're going to ask ChatGPT to do, and you'll say, in my writing style, and it'll just remember it. All right? Some people think, that's not the case. So if you take your favorite prompts, create like a Google Sheet or a Word doc, and just keep them in there. So you can grab them, cut and paste. When you have it analyze your writing style or your voice, take its analysis, throw it in that Google Sheet so you can add it to these prompts, because I don't think it remembers very well.
I do got to say on that, because I write a description for our podcast episodes every week. And when I do that, I use the same chat that I used the week before. So every week now, I've already explained what our podcast is. They have links to all of our episodes now that they can access and hear what we have done. So I will jump in, and on that same chat, because it'll save all these chats, you can jump back in. I'll just go in and be like, hey, I got another episode for us. And they're like, great, tell me a little bit about what you all talked about, and blah, blah, blah. I don't have to go through explaining what our podcast is anymore. It remembers very well what we have done because it's all in that chat from before. And so it just makes it so simple. Ask me questions one at a time. I kind of break down what we talk about, and then it spits out a description. And then I copy and paste it. I mean,
There's show notes on a podcast, so it's fine.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So it does remember if you are in the same kind of chat.
Window box. Like
Like I'm trying to visualize it. It's like you keep going back and you're texting your mom, right? Mom remembers. You can look back and see what mom has said and blah, blah, blah. So in that same chat, if you go back to it years later, it'll still remember everything that you've talked about before.
Okay. By show of hands, and we're moving on at this point, how many in the room are brokers? All right. Bankers, lenders. All right. We got appraisers, attorneys. Anybody else in the room that? Okay. To my broker friends, do you have your core client identified in your mind? Like if I asked you, who's my ideal client, or who's your ideal client, could you spit that out? Some of you are thinking, yes, I know exactly who that is. And some of you are thinking, well, I might be able to muddle through it, or maybe I haven't. I'll work with anybody who walks in the door. Some of us are like that, and no judgment here. I'm from a small town. I work with anybody who walks through the door, okay? But here's something you can do with ChatGPT. You can have it help you refine who your core client is, and then create messaging for that exact profile. All right, so here's how you might do that. In the marketing world, they would call this your avatar. And a lot of business will have maybe 2 or 3 core avatars. We do work that serves these 2 or 3 main clients, okay? Most of you fall into that category, whether you're a lender or a broker or whatever. You can identify this. Go in, tell ChatGPT, I'm going to give you a list of questions. Right, so this is a little bit different. You're going to still have it interview you, but you're going to give it the questions that you want to ask. I'm going to give you a list of questions about my core client that I want you to ask me one at a time, right? And then you're going to interview me until you can write the profile of my core client, right? Now, what this is going to do is it's going to end up giving you the profile of your avatar, your core client. My core client is a guy called Blue Collar John. A lot of the people that we work with in our business are blue collar business owners. They're wildly successful, especially after COVID, because they got a lot of PPP money that they didn't need because their businesses were exploding through COVID. And so here they are now in a situation where they've got a lot more wealth than they had just a few years ago. And they're, for the first time, really thinking about, okay, what kind of legacy do I want to leave to generations of my family? They're thinking about investing where they thought about the work before. And now they find themselves in a different position. A lot of our clients fall into this category to where, their sophistication level when it comes to commercial real estate is on the low side, but they're now interested. They've now got wealth that they really didn't have before, and they want to create generational wealth for their family. All right. So I start to create questions. I'll just write a list of 12, 15 questions. How much money do they make a year? Male or female? Like, get real specific and obvious. What's their age? What kind of work do they do? What keeps them up at night? Like, you want to go into those questions as well. Like, what are their goals for the future? What are they trying to accomplish? What makes them nervous? What's holding them back from moving forward and investing in commercial real estate? Have ChatGPT ask you those questions that you give it in this case, and then it'll create this profile for you for your core customer. Then, once you have that profile and you name that person, you tell ChatGPT, all right, this is Blue Collar John in my case. And if you go back into that text chain that you essentially have, now you can say, look, I want to write a series of 10 blog posts over the next 3 months that speaks directly to the concerns and the opportunities that Blue Collar John has. Go. And it'll just give me those 10 things. And you read them and you're like, holy moly, that's really insightful. And you might love 8 of them and think 2 of them are absolute garbage. Great, take the 8, throw out 2, ask for another list, whatever. And then you can say, all right, I want outlines for the blog posts for these 8, and it'll create the outlines. And I want tweets that go along with each one of these 10 different things I can tweet out on Twitter that would, attract the attention of this avatar so that they'll come and read this post. And you just keep going, and it'll create your entire social media marketing platform. It'll create you can actually have it write all those blog posts. It'll create it all, and it's all directed exactly at Blue Collar John or whoever your core client is. That's 30 minutes of work, and it's all done. And you can schedule all that stuff out, and just, especially if you've got a team, you can just hand it, say, here's the content. Again, don't copy and paste any of this stuff, all right? Iterate over it, spend enough time so that it sounds like you, and you can change it enough so that somebody's really clear about this guy's never blogged before, and now he's got 12 posts very regularly, and they all sound like ChatGPT. Like, you don't want that. But
Yeah, I was going to say it's one thing to have it write for you. It's another thing to have it lead you through the writing process, which is what I recommend often. If I'm sitting down, it's not commercial real estate, but if I want to write a screenplay, and I've got an idea of what I want to do, I'll be like, hey, you're an expert screenwriter. You've worked with these type of people or these type of writers. I am just beginning the process of writing a screenplay. Would you ask me questions to help me focus my attention on what needs to be focused on right now? So when you can use it as a mentor, I guess that's a weird way to say it, but if you use it as a mentor or coach or a teacher, then what is coming out is what you are putting in. And it's just asking you very focused things to get you to, and then in that case, there's not much copy and pasting. You're the one that's doing the writing, or you're the one that's doing it. So you've got that option as well.
And I'm glad you brought that up. When it's interviewing you, it's getting the information from you. Like, then its product, what it creates, is your information. It's what you gave it to craft for you. So it's doing a lot of the work, but it's using you as the data source. And in most of these instances, you are the expert. So that's good. Let me move on to the third thing and just mention this. I dare you guys. Well, wait, before I dare you. Alan, I'm going to put you on the spot. And I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to give me the right answer, okay? What's the one thing in a commercial real estate brokerage practice that will produce more revenue than anything else? What is it? Okay, and how do you get in-person meetings? Cold calls. The phone. Like, picking up the phone is the best way to generate revenue. It starts everything off. It gives you a modicum of control on your business. Most of us don't love doing it. Am I correct? Okay. And what most of us should do is grab somebody in the office on Monday morning and spend 20 minutes role-playing calls. It's best done in threes, where you have somebody who's the prospect, somebody who's the broker, and somebody who's watching and giving feedback, and then do that for like 5 to 7 minutes and then switch roles. After about 21 minutes, all three of you have gotten to go. You've kind of sharpened your axe for the week. It's like jumping in that cold plunge at the beginning of the day. Like you're sharp and you're ready, and you attack the phone and generate some meetings so you can make some money, okay? I doubt any of you actually do that. Like role play with people in your office. One, because brokers have big egos. Not you guys. But brokers have big egos, and we don't want to have an audience when we say something stupid, okay? But you can role play with ChatGPT. And we actually did this one time, and I told ChatGPT to be like mean and nasty, and oh my gosh, it was mean and nasty. Matter of fact, it made me want to like tuck my tail and go curl up in a fetal position.
It was so funny.
And I've been doing this for 20 years, and ChatGPT spit me up and ate me alive, and yeah, it was.
He was so excited to show it to me because we did it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, let's do this," and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool," because I'm into role playing big time, being an actor, and so I was like, "This is really cool. It could help with." Helping me learn a script for an audition that, I got to learn in 24 hours. This is great. And then he goes through to do it. It's on, I got to figure out what episode it's on. It is so, because Bo is just defeated. Like at first he's like, oh yeah, I can get this, I can do this. And then the ChatGPT ripped you a new one.
Now, I told ChatGPT who it was. I told him to be like hard on me. You might want to start with
he was so confident
friendly at first.
He was so confident.
And then when we were done, Timmy was like, "Why didn't you just tell him that?" And I was like, "Oh, that would have been a perfect." And he was, the actor came up with a good line. Go figure. Now imagine this. Imagine you start off every day and you role play calls with ChatGPT for 10, 15 minutes just to sharpen your axe. But then you tell it it's your avatar, which you just spent creating. And now it's playing the role of your core client, whom you're actually going to be calling. Like, think about, just the role playing in general would be incredibly beneficial to just about all of you. But if it's playing the role of your core client, your ideal customer that you're trying to attract in the first place, even better. So you can stack these ideas and make ChatGPT be a very, very valuable member of your company. Commercially speaking is on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of those things completely because he does it all. Like literally, I do not like social media. I like to engage with people I know and like on social media, but I'm rarely just posting stuff. But it's been very effective for the podcast. And then we created the podcast to benefit our company. And it has done all those things way beyond what I expected. And the only reason it all works is because I have someone else doing it. And ChatGPT can be that team member for you in a lot of ways if you don't have a Timmy. And you can't have mine. Okay. Two more things I want to mention.
What was the price tag?
I want to mention two other things just to be aware of. And then we'll open this up and we'll take questions. And I know we've got about 15, 20 more minutes. All right. There's something called, and I don't even know if I'm saying this right. So much of this is beyond me, but closed GPTs, all right, like private chat GPTs. There's a company, a CCIM instructor down in Louisiana has a company, and they've created a private closed GPT for their company. And what they've done is they've uploaded into it. I don't know how this works, by the way. You got to find a company to help you do this or whatever, but they've uploaded, I think, all the CCIM curriculum into this closed GPT. They've all this sales content, all these negotiation tactics. And the reason they did that is they bring on a tremendous amount of new brokers every year. And if you've ever brought on like interns or new juniors or whatever, the senior guys can sometimes, not you guys, but sometimes get a little bit annoyed at all the questions these newbies come into your office and ask you all the time over and over and over again. So they created this GPT, this closed private GPT thing where you go and ask the question to that thing and it gives you the answer that your senior or your mentor might have given you. And they gave me access to this thing, and it's impressive. Like you throw out I'm negotiating this lease, and we're stuck on the build out. Who's going to pay for it? How's it going to be spread over what do I do? Nobody wants to pay for it, and it'll give a reasoned, pretty smart response to that kind of thing. And they're using it for internal training. So this is an opportunity. I wish I could give you a resource or a company you could go to that could create that for you. This is stuff I don't quite understand yet, but that's coming, and that's going to be the norm, I think, before too long. Another thing I've used ChatGPT for is event planning. I taught 102 in Memphis. Casey was in that class last year, and they asked me to stay an extra day and do a site to do business seminar. And so Monday through Thursday was the 102 class, and Friday, about 15 of the students came back and a couple others from the market, and we spent the day just playing around in site to do business. So I had to figure out what I was going to do for that day. And so I went into ChatGPT and I said, here's the event. Here's what we're going to do. I need you to help me to create the agenda. And so I want you to ask me questions about the main ideas that I'm going to have I'm going to need to demonstrate and teach. And so it interviewed me, and then it spit out the agenda like that. I mean, I was amazed, and it was 80% good. And so I iterated with it a few more times and dialed it in, and I had the agenda in 15 minutes. And then I said, I want collateral for this session and this session and this session. What would be good? And it gave me suggestions on what the collateral would be. And then it created the dang collateral. And like the whole thing, like within an hour, I sent the chapter in Memphis. Here's what the agenda is going to be. Here's what we're going to go over. And they were like, this is great, and it was. And I barely had to do anything. I mean, I was really blown away. So you're just limited by your creativity for what you can get it to do for you. And that's it. I would just say one thing. When you're dealing with these prompts, okay, remember, you want to tell ChatGPT who it is. Most of the time when I'm using it, I'm telling it, you're an expert copywriter. Use my voice, which is what it told me it was in the first place when it analyzed my writing or my transcripts from a podcast. And then tell it what its task is. And then you give it the info that it needs to create it. Now, oftentimes I use that interview function to do that. And then you just dial in and iterate what it gives you. All right. That's basically the 4 steps I take every time I use ChatGPT.
There are plugins, and now it has apps that you've got it in there where there's a prompt app where people can share their prompts, where it will create prompts for you. But prompts are the key, like he says, and there's so much in there that can be so fun to use, but also can be overwhelming. So those who haven't done it, just go in and just start talking to it and get a feel for it. And most of the time, almost everybody just feels like it's so fun. It gets really fun, especially if you got to confront your parents about something. You are my mom and dad, and tell them what you want to confront them with, and they can do a little role play with you. That one didn't work out as well for me, but yeah. I forgot to tell it no curse words.
There is also a YouTube extension for ChatGPT where it can basically take a YouTube video, summarize it. Now think about this. You watch a YouTube video on some subject, and you're like, that's brilliant. How can I repurpose that content in commercial real estate? So use the YouTube extension, and ChatGPT will summarize the content of that YouTube video. And then you say, all right, now your job is to convert that to a commercial real estate context, and let's see how we can repackage this great idea, call it our own, and use it in commercial real estate. Now, this is riding right up against the plagiarism line in my opinion. However, there's not an original thought under the sun. It's all repackaged. Like everything I don't know that I've had an original thought in my life. It's all been repackaged my entire life, my entire career. So I don't really care much about plagiarism, and often, let me say that in a different way. I'm just real honest about where the source of the ideas came from.
There.
And I'm then going to take credit for repackaging it into a commercial real estate context, which I actually did. So it's honest. So don't, plagiarism is bad, and it doesn't matter. And if you aren't honest about the source of some of these things and you totally take credit for it, that can really come back and bite you in the rear end.
Yeah.
Okay? But swiping ideas from other industries, repackaging them for commercial real estate or lending or whatever context, that's okay. Just be real honest about it.
Yeah. And again, if you tell it what it is, that it's an expert, and have it ask you things, you're the one that's coming up with the stuff, right? It's not writing it for you. So that will keep you free and clear of plagiarism, which we always want to avoid.
Yes, that's what I meant to say at the beginning. All right, that concludes what I wanted to share based on some of the questions we got from you guys, and just some other things that
We're moving into a Q&A now.
That's what I meant to say as well. So Timmy's got a mic. He's going to roam the room, or Blake, thank you. So if you have questions, now here are your parameters. You want to ask us a question about ChatGPT? Totally cool. You want to ask about commercial real estate in general? Totally cool. We can quiz Timmy on whether he's learned it or not, because the whole purpose of the podcast is me teaching my actor-comedian brother commercial real estate. I've been super impressed at how much he's learned so quickly, because he's the one who actually edits all our videos. So he hears us talking about these things over and over and over again. So you want to throw him a curveball? Feel free, but go.
I understand most of what you're discussing today is from the context of it interviewing me so that I could write a bio or incorporate it into a listing. But what about a standalone listing? Let me give you an example. I have a piece of land that I'm trying to sell my company on financing it. And down the street is shopping, and down the other way is schools, and so forth. What's the primer for that, or for something like that? Because it's not about me. It's about what I'm trying to accomplish. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. You would have it interview you about the listing. Okay. Right? So I have you're an expert copywriter, or a marketing expert. I'm making I've got to make this listing for this industrial property or whatever it is. Ask me questions one at a time to figure out the information that you need to create a listing that is intriguing, down to earth. You know, you can add these adjectives of what you want it to feel like or look like. But then in that case, they're asking you information not about you personally, but about the actual property. You can even find information online that exists about the property or properties similar to it. Or if you see a listing that you like, you can give that to ChatGPT. Be like, I really like this listing. Can we do it in the style of this? Could you do it in the style of Ron Burgundy, right? It even spit it out for you like, Will Ferrell's Ron Burgundy, or Hunter S. Thompson, which I don't know why you want to do that, but there might be a situation.
Not only that, you could say, and I want you to include information about why the linkages are so good to a potential developer and why a lender would be making a great decision on why they would want to lend on a development on this property. So you can really dial it in and just tell it, ask me questions about why those things are true. Then you're still giving it the content. You're giving it the reasons, but it's pulling it out of you. Yep.
Yeah.
Great question.
Hey,
So I'm guessing you guys have the paid for version. I'm on like the wait list to get that. But when you're talking about the role playing, is that actually a function where you'll be speaking audibly and it'll be speaking back to you, or is it going to be just be written?
it's just written, but there is a plugin where it will take your voice. So you can actually talk to it and do it. But just as it is, you'd be typing in your responses, and then it would give you a response back. But there is a way where you can do it, where you're talking to it, and then it will.
And then it spits it out real quick.
It'll spit. Yeah, it'll just talk right back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Real quick, I've just never utilized any of this. So you mentioned collateral earlier. So can you literally link in a flyer and then some pictures and ask it to create this in your voice?
So it won't give you like the finished PDF. It's not a graphic designer per se, okay? It does have functionality where you can have it create an image that you want, all right? So have you ever done work with that really, really big CRE data company that likes to sue people? Sometimes if you like take one of their images and use it, you know, it can be bad. So you can tell ChatGPT through their DALL-E functionality to say, I want you to create an image of a 20,000 square foot industrial building with 16 foot high, blah, 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 on a 1.5 acre lot, and it'll create an image for you if you need like a representative image or something like that. What it'll help you do is the copy really well. And you can say, look, this is an example of something I like. I want to create something like this. You just copy and paste from a different flyer or marketing piece of collateral into ChatGPT. So you're giving it the source content. We're going to do something like this in this style, but now I need you to interview me about the actual property we're going to do. And so we're going to create this for this property. You just tell it, and it'll do it for you. And then you throw it into whatever software you use to create your marketing collateral for your company, or you give it to the graphic designer, and they'll take the copy and maybe an image that it creates and create the final product. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And as far as like it doing it in your voice, it's got to learn what your voice is, right? So oftentimes I will use like down to earth, humorous, if I'm writing something, and sometimes it goes too far humorous. Like it's not supposed to be this funny. Let's dial it back, Chad. But it's got to learn your voice. And in that case, be like, I want to do this in my voice. Can you ask me questions to learn my voice, right? But learn how I write, how I talk, how I speak. If you have samples of your writing, you could throw that in there as well. But yeah.
Does Chad have the ability to correct the information? So let's say you put information in there that may be outdated or may be completely wrong and you're not aware of it.
Never trust it for the accuracy of the information.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is designed to want to make you happy. Like these large language models. These large language models literally.
They're so warm and willing.
Yeah. Okay. But they're designed to predict the next word. So they don't care about it doesn't care about the accuracy of the information. It cares about wanting you to be happy about what it creates. So don't ever trust it for the accuracy of anything. Yep.
Yeah. And when you do get the paid version, it will go to, you can send it to where it can find the correct information. But yeah, like you said, do not rely on it to correct the data mistakes, like on a listing or something like that.
I'm glad you brought that up. Good question.
Could you talk more about the plugins and where you get those? And then also, I use Quillbot as my summarizer and paraphraser. Do you have any other suggested paraphrasers that are, and I do use both the paid version I have Midjourney, Quillbot, ChatGPT, DALL-E, But what else am I missing that you are doing?
Yeah, you should have done this today. Like, like if you would have asked me what summarizer, I would have said Quillbot. If the best images Midjourney, and my experience and expertise ends right about there.
But where do you get your plugins that you're talking about? For example, the one for the voice. Where are those coming from?
It's via. I wish I had my laptop so I could look it up for you. But it's in ChatGPT. So there's ChatGPT extension. There's one that I use called Prompt Genius, which is a plugin, I guess technically is what it is. And I found it from another somebody who knows this much better than Bo and I do on YouTube. So if you want to reach out to Bo, I will send you that exact YouTube video that will give you that information. But they now have like an in-app store in ChatGPT where you can go through and look at all these apps and plugins and kind of be inspired by the things that you can actually do. So with the voice thing, I don't remember what it's called, but it was within ChatGPT that I found it. And it's hard to describe without looking at it. But if anybody wants more like of that kind of information, we can do like a follow-up little email or newsletter, or we'll hook you up.
Early on, I just want to say when I first started playing with this, was doing some research, and it said that the different platforms will penalize you if you take something directly from ChatGPT and try to post it as a blog. Yes. They have actual algorithms that read that, and they know and recognize Chat's voice, and so you will, not only will you not get the traffic you want, they'll penalize you. Yes. And so you want to make sure that you're very careful that you do paraphrase and or say it again, like you were saying at the very beginning, to write it in your voice so that it is humanized.
Yeah.
Yes, great point.
And Quillbot, for those of you who haven't used a summarizer, Quillbot does a great job of taking what GPT spits out, throw it into Quillbot, it will paraphrase and summarize, and 99% of the time, I think, get around those kind of AI filters where they, punish you for, just copying and pasting. And all right, I know we're up against the clock. Any other questions? Let me just mention two really fast things. Okay. One is in-app AI is coming. And what this means is the large language models will be part of the chips that run your devices so that you can access this kind of AI help without being online. All right? Just think about that as you go about the rest of your day. That really changes everything. Mm-hmm. And it'll also probably drain your phones really, really fast. And then the last thing, Timmy just kind of mentioned it, but it was either last week or the week before, OpenAI announced essentially an app store within ChatGPT. And it's going to operate in some ways like the App Store for Apple or whatever, where developers can create these extensions and actually sell them to us. And it adds functionality to the base product of ChatGPT. That also changes things. And so there's probably going to be an explosive growth in the use cases of what ChatGPT can do or other AI platforms. So that's it. Tracy.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all so much.
I think we've seen the future of our industry, future of a lot of industries here. And where can we find Commercially Speaking? You had mentioned it before. Where are all the ways we can follow you guys?
Yes, so it's called Commercially Speaking. You can go on any platform you listen to your podcast, listen to it there. We are on YouTube. It's a video podcast. You don't need the video to watch it or to listen to it. But YouTube, add Commercially Speaking,
and it's pretty much at Commercially Speaking on all the platforms.
Okay, and new episodes every Monday.
New episodes every single Monday.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Commercially Speaking. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe. If there's anything specifically that you'd like Bo to teach me, and you as well, please put it in the comments right now. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please consider taking the time to leave a review. It really helps in this world. If you want to watch another episode, you can click right on the screen here and check back next Monday for a brand new episode of Commercially Speaking. Bye, Alice.